Okay, so I'm going to talk about some things that I want to chat about today. And the first one is a story about a hunter-gatherer society before, like, right before the Paleolithic age, like when the Earth was formed and the continents were formed and all of the animals were being born and the different new species was being born. Um, so I made up this story to understand better how human society and how like life and the world and how life on Earth and the world really works. Um, so there are 11 Homo sapiens, so 11 people living in a hunter-gatherer society, and there's nobody else, and they're living right in the middle, right in the center of Africa, in a jungle or in a forest in Africa, close to a savanna. So there's obviously lots of animals, lots of trees and nature and stuff like that. And so with the 11 people, they're divided in such a way that only one person works, like actually does the work to hunt the animals, to build the huts and the cots to sleep with wood, to make the fire out of wood, to fetch the water, the clean water from the nearby river, to skin the animal hide for purposes the animal hide is used for, to make all of the stone carved tools from different stones so that he can use them for hunting. So that's all his job. Like all of the responsibilities, like the living life responsibilities for life, are all of his responsibilities. And the 10 people um, in the tribe, the 10 people, they decide they're not going to do anything, or they basically they don't do anything and they opt out, and they all they do is they eat whatever the one guy who is responsible to provide all of this everything. um, they eat whatever he provides, and then they eliminate their waste and stuff like that. But other than that, they don't do anything. All they do is sit, sleep, lie down, and stand up. That's all. That's it. And and it's only the one guy's responsibility to do everything else, and it's also his responsibility to hunt the animals and to gather the fruits and vegetables and berries and whatever nuts and seeds for so that he can provide food to all of the other people of the tribe. So so yeah, so he does that for several years. He does all the work from, first to the last piece of work. He does all of that for 25 years, 50 years, 75 years, 100 years, and there's nobody to take care of him. Like if he gets injured while in the forest or in the savannah, or if he gets injured while hunting an animal, or if he gets hurt or bitten, or if he like injured, like he falls down and gets a cut or a scrape, or anything like that, there is nobody to take care of him. And then so he does that for however long he can do that. Like maybe it's 10 years, maybe it's 15 years, 20, 25, 50, 75, 100 years max, whatever his lifespan is. And he also is his responsibility, or he takes it up on himself to basically get the woman in the tribe pregnant, to make them become pregnant, and then to have them deliver babies for the tribe. And then it's also his responsibility to take care of the babies. So he takes care of the babies. He does everything that you need that is needed for the life of the babies to keep them alive. So like the providing the fire, providing the hut for shelter, um, providing fetching the water for water, providing hunting the animals, feeding them, feeding the babies, and stuff like that. and providing gathering the berries and the fruits and whatever, the vegetables and stuff like that. So it's one guy who has to do literally everything from first to last, from top to bottom for this one tribe of 11 people, where one guy has to do everything, has to do all the work, and the other 10 people basically do nothing at all. Nothing, like, don't even do one scratch of work at all, and are taken care of by this one guy only. So what happens? Well, the 10 people, they clearly don't really take care of themselves. So let's talk about the one guy who does everything first, all the work first. So he is obviously overworked. He works from dawn till dusk, morning till night, every single day of his life, doing everything that he needs to do for survival and maintenance and upkeep of the tribe and the hunting gathering society. He does everything for his own survival, and he does everything for other people's survival in the tribe and the other babies that he produces in the tribe. So he's kind of overworked to the max. He works to the max. He worked to the maximum capacity or capability or ability that he has from sunrise to sunset, from dawn till dusk, for every single day of his living life until he actually formally does die. And because he works so much, well, he has a lot more. Uh, his body is overworked. So basically, his muscles are more like well built because he's used all of them for work, for anything, for all the work that he does from dawn till dusk, from sunrise till sunset. So his muscles are all hypertrophied. They're all well built. He's very, very muscular looking guy. He has a very big build. Um, his cognition is probably a lot sharper than all the other people in the tribe because of the fact that he uses his brain and his concentration and his cognition and his problem solving abilities so much. Like he's literally using the entirety of his brain capacity from sunrise till sunset, from dawn till dusk, like every single waking second, every single waking moment, he is using all of his brain cells, like all of his brain capacity to do all of the work and all of the tasks that he needs to do, whether it's to get up in the morning and fetch water or to build a fire or to get a bunch of stones together and to break them and to carve them into pieces of stone that he can use as tools, whether it's to go and fetch firewood, whether it's go to and actually cut off like trees and tree branches to make wood so that he can use to make the huts. Like he has to figure that out. And he also has to go and hunt all of the animals by himself. So he knows how to hunt all of the animals. He knows how to he creates the tools that he needs to hunt all the animals. So he knows how to do that, and he works and he does all of that. So he is using all of his brain, all of the sensory components of his brain are active, like all of the sensory components of his brain, like the sensory pathways and neuronal pathways, like he works for them. Like he works to build them. Like he knows, like if he goes into the forest, like his senses, like they know, like, okay, like if a threat comes, what to do and stuff like that. Or like how to identify animals that are better to hunt and stuff like that. He's also walked the entire terrain of the forest and the jungle and the savanna, so he knows the geography and the topography and the geographic plane and terrain really, really well. He also knows all the different animals and the animal species really, really well. He also knows the different berries because he has to gather as well. So he knows the different berries and which ones are poisonous and which ones are good to eat and which ones are healthy and which ones are actually herbs and which ones are herbal and which ones are for medicine purposes. So he has learned and gathered and accumulated and found out and discovered that knowledge. So he has an extensive amount of knowledge, an extensive amount of brain power and brain cognition and brain energy and just the number, the quantity, and the quality and the capacity of brain cells that he has used to do all of that. And then and then he has done all that. So his muscles are hypertrophied. He's extremely well built because he's had to overwork. He's had to work every single moment and every single second of his waking life. He's had to take care of everybody else in the village. And he's also had to produce the babies and take care of the babies, of which there are probably, I think, maybe, let's say, anywhere from like 1 to like 10 babies. I don't know. Or 1 to like 5 babies. I don't know. However many babies there are. And so it's only this one man's responsibility to do everything from top to bottom. And he, over time, he becomes extremely like stealthy, like his body is very overworked. He may also have a lot of injuries, like he may have scraped or like got a tear on his legs or his arms or his body somewhere, and he may have needed to learn how to like fix a wound or like what plants to use to actually fix a wound or something like that without any knowledge being passed on, without anybody telling him to do that. He may have had injuries, like he may have like hurt his like had a like stab in his eye or something like that, or maybe he got like bitten by an animal or he got beat by an animal, and so he may have wounds and he may have healing injuries. He may have had a broken leg. He may have had an arm that got chewed off. I don't know, or worked off. But anyways, so basically he put himself at risk to do all of these things. And the adverse effect, or like the side effect of doing all of that, is the aftermath, or the result of doing all of that is, number one, he used his brain to the ultimate capacity. Number two, he built up his body, his muscles, his bones, got the exercise, and he built his bones, built stronger bones with all the exercise that he did, built all of the muscles with all of the exercise that he did, built all of the cognition and the memory and the problem solving skills and the thinking with all of the brain work that he did. Yeah. And then the negative effects of that is that he put himself in danger by like hunting poses lots of risks for injuries. If you're like being like chased by an animal, or if you get attacked and actually bitten by an animal, like you get wounds that could be infected, that could cause infections that could go into the muscle, into the bone, into the bloodstream. So that's a risk for he has a risk of getting wounds. He has a risk of getting injuries, like physical injuries. He has a risk of getting infections, like bloodstream infections from those wounds. He has a risk of anything, like a risk of like a tree branches falling on him, or he has a risk of eating like poisonous berries, or just being exposed to the environment that's bad. And climate wise, I guess it's like a pretty temperate climate. So like it's not like that there are like thunderstorms or like, earthquakes or like whatever that also could impede like his survival or their survival as a tribe. So that's the one guy, that's the one man that works a lot. That's his life. And I don't know what his lifespan is. Like it could be, like I said, it could be 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, 35 years, 40, 45 years, 50 years, 55, 65, 55, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85, 100 max. The maximum he can live, or the maximum that he should be able to live as like a human, like a Homo sapien like timeline, like a Homo sapien lifespan, is 100 years. So yeah, so that, and then yeah, and then after that uh and then what happens, what's the life of what is the life of the 10 people who do absolutely nothing? What does the life of those 10 people look like? Well, the 10 people, I don't know how many there are. Maybe there's like 5 women and 5 men, or whatever the male to female ratio is. But So they basically, all they do is they sit, they sleep, they lay down, and they stand up, and they either eat whatever is given to them by the one guy who's responsible for taking care of the whole tribe. And then they eat what's given to them, they drink the water that's given to them, and they eliminate their waste in whatever way they can. Like they just go and, like, I don't know, poop and pee in the bushes or whatever. But that's pretty much all that they do. And they don't help out with any of the chores. They don't help out with any of the tasks. They don't go hunting. They don't make the huts. They don't make the cots to sleep on. They don't start the fires. They don't gather the berries or the fruits or the vegetables. They don't go out into the jungle. They just stay within the premises of the tribe. They just basically stay inside of that tribe. They don't go fetch water. They basically do 100% absolutely nothing. Even the women who like get like produce the babies, they don't like take care of the baby. They just kind of like, it just comes out of their like birth, like their uterus, and it just comes out of their womb and their um and the birth canal, and then after that they don't really like do anything. They don't really exert any like force, or they don't, basically they just do 0%. They just do negative work. They do no work, just 0% work, 0% effort for all of them. So what happens to them? So basically, if you don't move your muscles, they're going to get a lot of muscle atrophy. So their muscles are very atrophied. They don't have any, they're very lean in looking. They don't really, they basically have no muscle mass. This isn't essentially what it is, because they've never really used the muscle. Their bone health isn't great because they've never used their bone against resistance or against gravity. Um, their eyes are also not been worked because they've never learned to like look for threat or look for things that they need, like that they need that could be useful to them, or things that are actually bad, not good, or could be dangerous. So their brain and the brain development and the brain capacity and the brain cognition, concentration, all of the brain energy that's there that they have, like the brain's capacity to do work, to create, to build new neuronal pathways, to become smarter and more intelligent, and their intelligence quotient and their emotional quotient, everything like that, it basically all uh, basically they're just very stupid because they did not learn, they did not apply themselves, and so they did not learn anything, and because of that they become frail. They become very like they lose like their motor skills because their motor skills aren't developed. So it's not that they lose them, but they just don't develop new ones. They only have the certain sense of motor skills and sensory abilities that they have, that they were born with, and they don't grow to adapt any of them, and they don't grow their brain intelligence basically. So they are not as stealthier, not as smarter, not as wiser, they not as anything basically. So muscle mass is extremely poor, bone mass is extremely poor, heart health is extremely poor because they have never ever worked their heart ever in their life. Um, and their brain intelligence, their brain cognition, and their brain capacity is extremely poor. And yeah, so, and they also are at risk for infections, like if they go like poop, if they like eliminate their waste, but then they don't clean themselves properly because either they don't know how to, or they don't learn how to, or they just kind of live in that, or they just, allow that area to become infected because it's poorly sanitized or something like that. Like that's a risk for infection. Also, risk for infection, like where the feces can get to like the food itself, and when they eat the food, they can auto contaminate themselves. They can self contaminate themselves. So that, and then yeah, that happened, and then what else? So basically, they become more and more weak, less and less able to function over time. Like their muscles less are sick, their muscles become ill, their bones become ill, their heart becomes ill. They could have a risk for infection. Um, their brain cognition either slows down or just completely like is very, very low and just drops because they're not using their brain at all aspects of their cognition, such as number one, their memory, number two, their frontal lobe executive function, execution function, their their eyes visibility, like that doesn't develop very well. Their ear, like their temporal lobe, their occipital lobe, their parietal lobe, their motor pathways, the sensory pathways, like all of those things don't develop. They don't develop, but they actually like worsen over time because of the fact that uh, the 10 people just do not use any aspect of their brain and of their body at all. So yes, so they don't use their brain, they don't use their minds, they don't use their bodies, they don't use their eyes, ears, nose, throat, lungs, heart, muscles, bones, stomach, abdomen, whatever, like, genital urinary organs, they don't use any of that. So it all atrophies and it all lessens and lessens over time, and over time they become so weak that they just like die off just by just the principle, just by the purpose of not doing anything. So we don't know I don't know the lifespan of those people, like those 10 people, but it could be anything. It could be 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 25, 30, 35, 40, 40, all the way up to maximum of 100. But I don't think these people make it to 100. I don't know what the maximum age of hunters and gatherers was or were, but it's probably maybe like 40 or 45, but maybe they don't even make it till that, or they make it till that and they just die off. And because they don't have any build like brain cognition or brain memory, or they don't have any skills that they actually learned and built up, and that they actually learned and that they participated in, and then that they remembered and that they memorized, and they don't practice it giving it to their children. So their children, the babies, they didn't grow up to learn any of those skills, any of the new skills that were supposed to be passed on by these 10 people in the tribe to the babies or to the growing children. So the children never, they don't learn anything. And the one guy who hunts and does all the stuff for the tribe, he teaches the babies, and he teaches the children like how to do things. So he imparts like the entirety of his knowledge, like all of his hunting knowledge, all of his gathering knowledge, like all of his knowledge, and all of his routines and his tools and his skills and his brain and his memory and like everything that he has, all of his wisdom to these babies and these growing children and teenagers and stuff like that. And he like maintains them all, like he feeds them and stuff like that. And then when he dies, so he eventually does die. I don't know how long he lives for, but I mean, like I said, it could be 25, 50, 7,500 years. I don't know. But he dies eventually. And however, and the other 10 people, they basically atrophy, like all of the parts of their body, whether it's their brain or their heart or their bones or their muscle or their whatever aspect of their body there is, it atrophy, all of the parts of the bodies atrophy and they eventually die off from just not using their bodies. Um, and then all of the knowledge and the wisdom that the one guy who was actually working and hunting and doing all this stuff, he passes on all of his knowledge and skills and everything, wisdom to the younger generation, like that he produced, like however many babies he had, like maybe 1 or 10 babies, 1 to 10 babies, I don't know. And then so the new generation of the tribe learn all of it from the next generation, or from the one guy who was actually hunting and doing everything and everything, all the stuff. But the question is when he dies, and obviously all the 10 people that were there, before who are not doing anything, they don't have anything to pass on. So they eventually die, and they're the ones who are dependent. So dependence on the next generation and on the one guy that was hunting. So they were 100% dependent on him, and if the other people, if the next generation were helping, but which is no, because only one guy was doing everything. So the 10 people, they slowly die off because they are 100% dependent and they are not doing literally anything. And they're so 100% dependent on all of their survival needs, all of their physical and mental and emotional, all of the needs. Um, and so yes. And then what happens is they eventually die off and they eventually atrophy. And it's not like they have any knowledge or skills that they can pass on to the next generation. So they eventually die off, and I don't know what their lifespan or their time span is. And so the next generation, when this one guy, the one hunter guy, dies, and obviously they're not getting anything at all from the 10 people that are not doing anything, that were decidedly scheduled to, they were just not, they were chosen to not do anything. So they're not getting anything from them, and they're all dying off. The next generation has a choice to make. They need to make a choice that, are they going to become like the hunter guy, or are they going to become like the 10 people who literally did nothing and just atrophied, and they basically literally did 100% nothing other than sit, lay down, sleep, and stand up, and that's pretty much it. And then go and eliminate their feces somewhere, and that, or go and eliminate their waste somewhere, and that's pretty much all they did. So the next generation of whatever, how many, it's whatever babies, like maybe it's like one baby, maybe it's like they grow up to be a child or a teenager, or maybe it's like 10 babies who grow up to be a child or teenagers, but like minimum one baby to maximum 10 babies. Like they grow up to be a child and they grow up to be a teenager, maybe like 12, 13, 14, 15. And then at that age, at 15, they have to decide, do I want to be like the hunter guy? Do I want to live like the hunter guy? Or do I want to be like, live like the 10 people, live like one of the 10 people who did 100% nothing, and who chose to do 100% nothing and live like they were already dead, like, or live as if they are 100% dependent on the one hunter guy. So I don't know what you would call them or one of those people. It would either be you choose to be the hunter guy, or you choose to be a hunter guy who does everything from top to bottom, all the stuff from sunrise to sunset, from dawn to dusk, or you choose to be the one of the people who chooses to do absolutely 100% nothing. So the learning point and the message and the moral of this story is, what do you choose and who do you choose to be? As a Homo sapien, as a human being, as a piece of life, as a piece of work, as a piece of life on this Mother Earth, on this world, on this planet Earth, what do you choose to do? And who do you choose to be? And yeah, who do you choose to be?